All right, we're live. This is the Producer Hangout, episode 2, and I'm Flux with fluxwithit.com, and I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Bryce,
Yeah.
go ahead. Or Kev,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I'm Kev, KevWestBeats.com. Reviewer, sound designer, producer, engineer, all kinds of stuff. And right now, sound whore. Go ahead, Mike.
What up? My name is Mike, aka Silent Cypher, straight out of Germany, and I'm a producer, hip hop and electronic dance music producer. So, yeah, that's what I do. And we got a new guy here, Bryce. Go introduce yourself.
My name's Bryce. I go by Upright, beat maker, engineer, synthesis head, machine head. That's basically it.
So for today's topic, before we get into it, I guess I should explain first that we're trying a new technique as far as the broadcast goes. So we're gonna try and get everybody involved into the chat and get everybody in the room before we really kind of pick up steam as far as what we're talking about. And if you're a part of any forums or anything out there and you want to share the show, get the word out there about the show. The more people that know about it, the merrier. And it should the community aspect should enhance the show.
Exactly.
Yeah, we also have a Facebook group. You can go on facebook.com/group/the Producers Hangout. You can join there if you have any questions about the show or any technical issues. We always try to help you guys out.
Exactly. So what I'm doing right now is I'm gonna grab a link. This is being broadcast on the Flux 302 channel, and we basically, the way we have it set up right now is because we all have our own websites, we're kind of swapping between different websites as far as what show is going to be on. So what website it's going to be on, so you can kind of get to it through there, and you'll be able to find archives of the older shows on all of our websites. So that's a easy way to kind of get involved and see what we've been doing.
Okay.
And Kev, are you sending out the link now?
Yes. Yeah, I've been sending.
And why don't you post that link in the chat here so that we can kind of I can grab that link easily and just kind of toss
I'm
it.
using the one in the browser from the...
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one I'm using, the one that's actually in the Hangout. Were you able to do it from YouTube too?
That's what I was just trying to find, and I'm not actually seeing it. It's I have to let me try to click it on view as public and see if I can actually see it.
Let me see here.
What we have.
I'm looking here, and it looks like it's saying that we're not even live. Oh no, this is the one. Yeah, it's not showing that we're live yet on YouTube. It said we started 40 minutes ago, but it's not broadcasting.
No, that's an old broadcast. That's not this broadcast.
Yeah, that's the only new one that's up.
Interesting.
But you say we are streaming live? Let me take a look. Yeah, it says we're live.
According to the upper window here.
Yeah, it says we're live. Yeah.
Okay.
Should be at Flux 302 YouTube. Right?
Yep, it should be. But whether or not that's the case, kind of yet to be seen. So
right.
We'll have to kind of take that as it goes and see how it turns out and where it appears at. But yeah, it listed as live right now.
Okay. Well, let's do it. We'll share the links and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure where you're going to be able to find it on YouTube because I don't see it on my own channel, but that's okay. So anyway, let's just hop right into the show, and The reason people will get sound out of only the left channel, I believe, is a product of Google and the Google Hangout system. It doesn't make sense. I don't like it. I don't think anybody likes it, but it's what they basically do. And who knows?
I hear you in stereo.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, you hear me in stereo. Yeah. Jay Real is saying that he's getting it out of the left speaker.
Can you hear the rest of us in stereo, or is
I'm only getting it out of the left channel as well, so maybe it's something that I have wrong as well. I don't know.
Okay, that's odd. I don't know what else to say about it, but
mine's
it's odd.
Stereo. Yeah, I got stereo.
I got the link. I'm posting it in the chat.
Awesome.
Okay, excellent. And Ricardo has it in stereo. So this is one of the lovely things about
Max. Blaming Max.
Yeah, well,
internet.
So anyway, getting right into it. Yeah. There's probably issues with me. Who knows? So to start it off, let's really jump into topics about Namm, because that's what just recently went by, and there was mixed feelings as to how Namm felt for some people. Somebody keeps trying to call my phone.
Yeah, me too.
So there was mixed feelings as to whether or not Namm was a really good year of Namm. I myself personally was not super thrilled by it, but there was just a few little tidbits that were pretty nice. For me, my highlights definitely would have been Moog Sub 37, Arturia Beatstep, and the X series controllers from Behringer look really nice. The price points I felt were kind of all over the place for that. But I was really interested in the Beatstep. Like, that was the one that made me like jump up and down and be like, oh, I need that right now. Kev, what was your take on that?
I wasn't too thrilled. I mean, everybody knows I'm ecstatic for Sample Tank 3. That was a given. I was disappointed that Roland didn't show the aria, or the area, or whatever it's supposed to be, or like this. I guess they're a series. I was really looking forward to seeing those, and we didn't see those. Happy they finally gave us an announced date for Bitwig. What you call it, the Trigger Finger. The Trigger Finger Pro I thought looked interesting, but I'm happy on Machine. I don't think I need that. Like you were talking about the Behringer controllers, those look nice. The new Moog looks really nice. That was really the only thing that really stuck out to me. Everything else I was kind of whatever. I didn't care too much about the Beatstep. I don't think it was for me. It looks like a cool enough piece of gear, just not for me, you know? Overall, Namm, I think, was kind of disappointing.
How about you, Silent Cypher? Mike?
I was also kind of disappointed because I don't saw anything really new. It was just like variations of products we already know, or reinventing stuff that we already know, like the Roland Airy series, stuff like that. But I'm really looking forward to Bitwig, and now when they let us know how much they will charge us for it, I think that was the perfect move they did. I think the price is exactly right on Bitwig, because it fills the gap between Fruity Loops and Ableton Live perfectly. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to Bitwig.
Now, what about Bitwig, aside from the price point, really gets you excited?
First of all, I really like the design. You know, I'm a web designer myself, so I always think the software I'm using should look nice and clean, and I really like the design of it, and it looks very simple and intuitive to me. Besides to Ableton Live, where I still think it's one of the ugliest software designs out there, in my opinion.
You on that.
Yeah, and I only watched a few videos on Bitwig so far, and I think it looks it looks like a pretty seamless workflow to me, and I'm really excited to get my hands on it.
Yeah. What about you, Bryce? You were actually on the floor there, so you were at.
Yeah. My two biggest things are definitely the Beatstep and Bitwig for sure. Beatstep, just because it's you know, I mean, I got the modular, you know, I'm doing the modular stuff, and then it's just a whole step sequencer workflow. They had it running to I think what VST was that? That was I want to say their Oberheim Arturia VST, and I mean just using the step sequencer for melodies with the VST was like wow, you know. So let alone the modular side for me with the CV, that's like the biggest product for me, you know.
Now, price point wise, and I guess I should kind of explain for a few people why the Beatstep is so interesting. Is price point wise, to get an analog sequencer, you know, below $100 is pretty ridiculous. On top of that, it's also a MIDI to CV converter, so that alone under $100 hasn't been done before. Even if you're buying like cheaper brands of MIDI to CV, you're not getting them that cheap. And with Arturia, they've already come out with the micro brute that does it, and the mini brute that does that. Now they have the Beatstep, and the Beatstep really does. In a way, it's kind of like a poor man's true analog sequencer with some of the random functions that it can do. The only downside of it that I could see was it does not intake analog clock input, which one of the downsides of that is using an analog sequencer. You can, if you clock to audio frequency levels, you can use them as a VCO. So we're not going to be able to do that with this, but we are going to be able to have it do things like sync your modular system if you have analog gear or you know, a modular synthesizer. You'll be able to sync it up with your DAW or whatever, you know, software you're using, because you can, you know, transfer the MIDI from your computer into the analog domain, which is pretty serious. That, let alone the fact that you also have 16 drum pads, so if you're doing, you know, chopping beats or something on the go, you have a 16-pad controller as well. So I thought that was really interesting. The fact that they're willing to kind of do these, you know, what would be viewed as niche products, but, you know, kind of mass produce them so that they're at a low price point is pretty interesting.
What is the price on it?
$99.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty darn low. And really, for $99, any pad controller, I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, we've got things like this guy over here. So I've got like the Korg. What is this one? The
NanoPad.
NanoPad. Yeah. So I've got like this NanoPad. When these first came out, it was a big to-do. Like, people were freaking out because they hadn't seen a pad controller like this at that low of a price point. And now we're starting to see a real trend of that with, you know, the LPK series, you know, the newer Nano keys and Nano pads. You know, a lot of companies are coming out with these really small, inexpensive controllers. So what I'm hoping that we get out of that is there's a large generation of beat makers who didn't grow up on hardware. Like, a lot of us are used to hardware, but they didn't grow up on hardware, like Kev West, and so they don't have the same experience of actually being hands-on, and what the difference in workflow that is of being hands-on with something versus using something like a mouse or just a mouse and a piano, you know. So I think it'll be interesting in the next few years to see where that goes, when even the Fruity Loop producers and, you know, the guys who are using the bare minimum stuff still have access to hardware that, you know, used to cost quite a lot of money, you know.
Then we also had the announcement for the MAudio Trigger Finger Pro. What do you guys think about this?
It's about time.
You think?
Yeah, like I think MAudio right now is just they're doing what Korg did with the Triton. They're kind of just trying to soak up whatever property they have and soak up all the money out of them. At least that's what it. Like,
I'm kind of in a
penny
disagreement on that because while I'm a machine user and I know a lot of people when it comes to like beats and pads, they either have an MPC, hardware or software, a machine, or something like a if they're more of like a dance producer, maybe they have like the Arturia Spark or Sparkle, but there's a lot of people that are just using Ableton or just using FL Studio or whatever, that all they want is a pad controller. And for just a pad controller, it looks pretty nice. Like, it's got a lot of really nice features on it. I didn't like the placement of that sequencer, though. That sequencer at the bottom.
Very out of place.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, like, and I'm an idiot when I'm finger drumming. Like, I'm going like fast and heavy on it. But to me, that looked like something where my palm would definitely be striking that. Now, I didn't get hands-on it yet. I'm hoping I can get a review model of it sometime soon. But the placement of it, I would have rather had a sequencer along the top as opposed to along the bottom, personally.
I thought that too when I saw it. Just that, but what I mean by that, like we have like 10 different axioms now. Now they're coming out with a new trigger finger. Is like bring us something new. I would have rather had seen an axiom with 16 pads, 61 or 88 keys, and have like really good keys.
I can't help but feel like the Trigger Finger Pro is they kind of see what NI is doing, and I mean, and not to be negative, it looks like a great pad controller, but I think they kind of see what NI is doing, and they're like, this is a big market. Let's try to get some of this while we can, kind of thing. That's just how it came off to me. It came off like kind of like, I can do it too, kind of thing. While, the Huey control, I think it has the Mackie control and Huey control, right? Yes. So that's kind of a appealing part, but I can't help but just, that was the first impression I got. They see what NI is doing. I mean, NI is just going after the market. They got, they're just eating up everybody, Akai, and I think they feel like, well, we can be that second place product where Akai may not be coming through for some people, and I'm not going to say, the Renaissance is all bad, but clearly NI has that first place spot. So I feel like MAudio, they're trying to come in and be that number two.
Do you think that they're
kind of product?
Really,
and that's just what I got.
I did see that they have they have a software that goes with it now. And that software is kind of interesting because in the way that it's being used is also kind of similar to the way that some of the Akai stuff is. They have new MPK controllers, and the MPK controllers come with a software now. Is it the MAudio or is it the Akai that has the what is it called? Arsenal?
That was MAudio, I think. I see the software too. The software kind of reminded me of Battery.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought was funny is, you're calling it Arsenal and it reminds you of Battery, and you're like, that's kind of a, it from outside looking in, it kind of looks slightly as a slap in the face. So who knows if they're if they're trying to be as aggressive, because behind the scenes, I've seen some of these companies where they'll want to be really aggressive towards each other. Like some of the owners of these companies, believe it or not, have a pretty serious ego. So it could be interesting. And for anybody coming into the chat room, just let me just let everybody know. Anybody coming into the Hangouts, don't be offended if you see that you're muted. We're muting anyone who's not a part of the show, and if you try to unmute, we're just going to mute you really quick. So that's just so that we don't screw anything up.
But you can always comment in the write some comments in the chat here and stuff. We will.
Absolutely. Yeah, we would prefer to use the chat.
Chris, if you have a question, do what you just did.
Yep.
We are reading the comments.
Yep.
So Bryce, being on the floor, this was your first NAMM?
It was my first NAMM. Yep.
And
yes.
what did you take away?
Man, it was really kind of overwhelming. But I mean, Akai's presence to me wasn't as. I was talking to the Akai reps, and they didn't really have too much to say about the direction of, you know, the MPC, which was a little disappointing, you know. But I mean, for me, it was just so overwhelming with so much to see. I mean, there was just a ton of stuff to see, you know, and but I mean, I spent a good amount of time in the Bitwig booth and Arturia. That's where I was mainly at. You know, I did check out the Finger Trigger Pro, and yeah. So, but yeah, for me, it was Bitwig and Arturia was a you know, and I went downstairs and spent some time with the modular guys down there. Yeah. But yeah.
There was some great stuff on that end as well. The modular market's been really kind of opening up a good bit.
Definitely.
It's becoming more mainstream. I'm actually on my website right now. I'm working on a very in-depth article to try to kind of take away some of the confusion for when people first do modular. Because modular, I mean, you look at these systems like Bryce has behind him and like I have behind me, and they can look confusing, and there really doesn't seem to be a super clear resource on people getting started on it. But it's been gaining a lot of steam lately, and I've noticed that I think it was Analogue Haven, who normally has a really nice booth at NAMM, weren't really something's happening here. We got to mute Jay Real here.
Yeah, Jay.
Here we go.
So I noticed that you're starting to see things like Make Noise came out with some new modules that looked really cool, and who else was it? Was it Hex Inverter? No, Harvestman has some new drum modules.
And then there was that stuff that's more like the Buchla stuff.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah. I want to say
the name of it. I want to say it was something with a V, but anyway, those modules look absolutely fantastic. Their price point doesn't look wrong, but it is a boutique price point.
Yeah, definitely.
So the analog area was definitely still going strong, which the past 3 years, it seems like there's been a push towards more affordable analog gear, and I feel like we're still seeing a bit of that. I felt the biggest misstep of NAMM for me was I really did not like the idea of a Korg MS-20 full-size kit for $1,300 that you had to put together yourself when they sell a mini for what, $600, and you know, same exact functionality. Now, I love a full-size synth as much as the next guy, but you can buy used original versions of that synth for the same price, if not cheaper, and that thing, I gotta be honest with you, I just saw it and I thought to myself, and I know they're doing a very limited run, so they're trying, but if that, I really hope that Korg wasn't trying to test the waters for a full-size analog using that. That's what
I don't think that's what Korg had in mind. I think they were, look, I've seen a lot of people are actually interested in it. I think it's for more of the do-it-yourselfer that likes doing stuff like that.
I tell you what, that's who they're speaking to, is me. Like, I mean, I'm sitting here soldering stuff up every day and doing DIY projects, and that did not speak to me at all. That together synthesizer, and it literally is. It's not a DIY project. It's not.
Right.
A DIY project is something that you're building. You're doing some soldering, whatever. You know, different skill sets are going to dictate how deep you go. But that to me was more of a, we don't want to spend price on manufacturing and shipping, So we're just going to lay it in a flat a smaller box and ship this thing out. You put it together. We're going to do a smaller run, but we're going to still charge, boutique prices. Now, everybody that I know, we've, for the past year or so, been hoping for like a polyphonic analog from Korg, because we saw the Monotron and then we said, okay, let's see a poly version. Well, they did the Volca keys, which got a lot of people really excited. So, they also had the Mini MS-20. So people were speculating, well, maybe they do the Korg monopoly or something to that effect. I personally want to see a brand new polyphonic analog synthesizer from Korg or one of the top dogs that can mass produce it and make it much cheaper. Because when you get somebody like DSI producing it, they can be great synths, but they are a smaller company. There's no getting around the fact that Dave Smith Instruments is a smaller company than somebody like Korg or Roland. And if somebody has that much manufacturing power, they should, to this day, be able to do a surface mount technology synthesizer, analog, that's poly for an affordable price, I'm talking, sub $1,500.
Definitely.
No, I'm not saying to cut you off. I got a message on Facebook, somebody saying that apparently the chat or the video call is full. Does anybody have any actual links to the show so we can add people in that still want to come in?
I think Tash had posted that in the chat.
I'll take a look again. I didn't see it.
Yeah, hang on one second. I think it's this. So you can try that.
Let me get a look here.
So
there we go.
Another thing that I noticed about NAMM is software companies were missing, out and outright missing. Bryce, did you get that feeling while you were on the floor? Did you notice that there just wasn't that much new from the software companies?
Definitely. I mean, there was reps from different companies there on the floor, but as far as booths, yeah, it was lacking. Definitely, I agree.
Interesting. I feel bad for you, man, because normally there's a lot of them there, and you could usually get some beta versions or something,
Yeah.
Did you guys see the Spectrasonics OMG1 they give away on the NAMM?
Well, that was last year though.
No.
Unless they did it again. The OMG1 was actually from last year. And I believe,
really?
I think it was Teely that won it. Yeah, that's the synth with the Torley. That's his name. Torley won it. And that's the it's got the iPad in it, or the iPhone in it, and the Sub-Fatty and some other stuff that they put it all together into one thing.
Okay, then probably the blog I read about the NAMM news listed it wrong, because I thought it was this year.
No,
okay.
that was last year. Yeah, that was last year, which was a phenomenal looking piece of kit. I would have loved to have won that. But Torley is a YouTube guy who, if you haven't seen him, I highly suggest you check him out. I'll see if I can post it in the show notes. But he does like these preset videos, and he kind of like goes through sounds and just really good videos. So
Project Preset's amazing.
Yeah, Project
totally.
Preset.
Yeah.
And if anybody's gonna win, then at least it was somebody quality like that, and it wasn't just.
I will say about software companies, one thing that kind of jumped out at me was the UVI stuff. I haven't been exposed to UVI, and I don't know why I haven't used any of their stuff. I mean, I have BPM, and I guess they did all the stuff for BPM, which I didn't know that. But the UVI booth, I went by there. They were giving away free stuff. I think they gave me, it was their Mellotron, their version of the Mellotron, which is amazing. They were giving that away to everybody. But their stuff is amazing, man. I was really blown away by the UVI stuff. And then they have a new app coming out called BeatHawk, which was like, wow, I was blown away by that thing. That thing is really impressive. It's going to be something else.
Yeah, Mike, did you see that?
Nope, not yet.
So BeatHawk is it's an iPad app, and it looks like the first thing that I've seen that might actually give Beatmaker 2 a run for its money. I haven't seen anything else that really comes close to Beatmaker 2. I mean, the IMPC, the iMachine, all that stuff, we got to be realistic. That stuff is all half-assed compared to Beatmaker 2. Beatmaker 2
is definitely
the only legitimate,
Yep.
beat making application in that it allows you to sample, to chop, and this BeatHawk looks really, really nice. The workflow on it looks really good, so I'm really interested in that as well. And there was who was it that did what was it, Beat Tweaker or Beat Breaker or whatever it was?
Isotope.
Yeah, Isotope. Isotope has their new software, which I gotta be honest with you, that doesn't look like something that I would use so much, but I could see a lot of IDM producers and.
I haven't seen this new software that they've done. What is that? What do they do?
It's essentially it's a way to make swells and what do you call it? Not just swells, but breaks for your dance music. So that should be interesting. They did it in conjunction with BT, who they had done what was it, Stutter Edit?
Oh yeah, I remember that one now.
And
yeah, they announced it.
Stutter Edit had gotten a really good response from people as well. I have not used it. Do any of you guys use Stutter Edit?
No.
I don't use it. I've seen it, yeah.
What do you use for your stutters?
I use SP404. It's a long process for me. I'll take everything and run into the SP404 and do all my stutter edits in there.
Is there
it's a long round, but I just prefer the sound of the SP404 for stutter.
Now, are you comfortable using the stutter effect, the grain stretch on machine?
I don't really like it. I never see a usage for it.
Really? I'll have to. Maybe I'll post some links to some of the videos I've done on it. I absolutely love grain stretch, and I use it all the time. I use it probably more often than the finger. The finger is my next one that I use for stutters and glitches.
I like.
But I use grain stretch manually a lot. I really enjoy the way to do it, and if you set it up properly, you can get these really musical glitches out of it, which is what I tend to use. But yeah, Stutter Edit just didn't. It looks interesting, but it's not really something that I think I'll be using, and that's kind of the same way that I feel about this new software that they're doing. So maybe I'm just not the target audience for it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of us.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you completely. The new software, it didn't even catch my attention at all. I mean, I briefly looked at what it does, and I was like, I wouldn't even use that. So,
Mike, what was your thought on the Behringer controllers, the new X series?
I don't. How can I start? I really like the idea of motorized faders in a keyboard, and I think it's really about time to have this. And I also used to have the old Behringer BCF controllers, and they were great controllers, rock solid. And I'm really excited if they still using the same faders and stuff with the same quality.
Now, a lot of people complain that they were noisy.
They're a little noisy.
But never mind. I mean, for that price, they can be as loud as they want. I listen to my music loud all the time, I don't care if there's a little scratching faders, but they were a little noisy, but they run smooth all the time. So, and compared to the next bigger thing is what, like the Icon controllers?
Euphonics, who got bought out by Avid, has theirs, but they're pretty pricey. They're about $1,000, I want to say. or
Yeah,
maybe
but
like
I think
$99 at the cheapest.
I
But
think they're these icon controllers. Their price range is between the Behringers and a Mackie control, somewhere around $500.
okay.
And those sucked. I have one here, and the quality was so terrible. They had this little rubber knobs, and they stuck all the time. And so I'm excited, but I'm more excited about the X Touch than the keyboards.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Kev? Is that something that you would use?
Yeah, actually, if I didn't already have the BCF 2000, I probably would. I've been using mine for about 10 years. I love my BCF 2000. Like Mike said, they're a little loud, but for $200, what I paid for it, and I haven't had a single problem with it outside of I bent one of the faders moving into a new place. Outside of that, it hasn't given me a single problem.
Now, see, my only real issue with the X series that I saw was so the top of the line one, I want to say it was $599, somewhere around there. It was either $599 or $699. I want to say $599.
Yeah, for the 61 key.
No, this is for the console with the transport control, and it has the strip across the top, the scribble strip. LED
Right.
scribble strip on it. So they had different models. They have that, and then they have the model down from that doesn't have the LED scribble strip on it.
Right.
And my problem with that is I literally just maybe 2 months ago I had a Digi 02 console, and I also had the MAudio Project Mix. Those used right now are selling for about $500 or so, and I just sold mine. They have 8 inputs on them. They have full audio interface capabilities, and they're built like tanks, and they work great. I sold mine just because honestly, that's not the kind of work that I'm doing right now, so I just didn't need it anymore. But I mainly used it as a control surface and not really use the audio interface very much.
Mm-hmm.
But these things are coming out, and they don't even have an audio interface on them. And control scheme-wise, they don't really add anything that a Digi 02 couldn't really do. So I'm kind of like...
I want to ask you a question, Flux, about and anybody else that's used like one of these, the Mackie control and Huey control. How good is that? I mean, how well
really
does that work? Can you basically do? Does it? Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was my question. I mean, if I'm going to pay.
I mainly used mine with Logic. Was for a long time was my primary DAW, and then I moved away from Logic into Studio One, and it worked flawlessly with both of those. I also used it with Pro Tools, no problems there at all. I mean, worked so well. One of the things that I loved about both the Digi 02 and the Project Mix is that there's a scribble strip above every channel, so there's no guessing as to what something is assigned to. So as you scroll through, you can bank through your faders, and they all move into place, and above the fader it says what that channel is, and it worked great. And as far as control wise, as far as it being like a fine enough control, I never really had a problem with wanting for a more accurate control while I was doing it. They always felt good. They were all touch sensitive faders, so as soon as you touch the top of it, the channel would be selected, and you could have it set up to pop up your plugins while you did that. It worked really well. I didn't have any problems with them. So right now, instead of using that, because again, I'm not doing as much album work as I am sound design now, but I still like a physical fader, I'm using this. So, and it works great. I mean, for, all it is just one fader, and it's got my transport control, and I can bank left and right on it, and because it's only one fader, I don't really need the scribble strip. But I was really hoping to see Presonus come out with something that was like a bank of 4 faders or something in a similar form factor, or something, just to add on to this,
Or at least they upgrade their mixer line with the ability, like Focusrite did, to have 2 modes on your digital mixer. One for the input and one for controlling MIDI data with it.
We had a couple questions in the chat too, and I'm curious too. Killer Tracks wants to know what's the iPad app called that you guys wanted to talk about.
AC Core 7. Oh, no, I'm sorry, BeatHawk. I'm sorry, I was still thinking of. That's another thing that I use also for faders now. I'm using my iPad a lot too. I use AC Core 7, and it works great. I've done a couple of videos on it, and you get the scribble strip, you get everything you need, and you can control your Studio One, Pro Tools, whatever you need right from there. I
have another question now. Did you guys saw the DS1 made by Livid and Dubspot?
I did.
Control mixer.
Yes.
I did get it.
So motorized, right?
Exactly, and that's what I want to talk about. This unit costs $500. Is it legit to nowadays to release a controller for $500 without motor faders? Because I think that's way overpriced.
I mean, Livid is kind of known for not exactly being cheap. They're kind of what I would consider somewhat boutique. But with that being said, would I buy it? No. I know people who will. It looks really nice. I like what's on it. For me personally, in a mixing / DAW environment, yes, I definitely want motorized faders. For a live dance performance, maybe that's not needed as much. Maybe if it's just effects or something or mixing, which I think is who it's geared towards. I think it's more geared towards people using Ableton Live in a live performance aspect. Which it works for that, but yeah, me personally, that was my first thought was, why does it not have motorized faders? Like, that would...
I'd say that about any mixing controller at this point. Why doesn't it have motorized faders?
The only mixer that I have that I don't need motorized faders on is my actual analog mixers that I'm sending inputs into.
Exactly. And even then, I'd rather just get an audio interface with more inputs. That's just me. Somebody else wanted to know too. I saw the other question. J Real asked, "Where is it? The mixer that you had? I forget what it's called too. The Personas guy that you were holding up."
Oh, this is the fader port, and this is the fader port, and it's one.
Does it have a motorized fader? Yeah. Okay, it does. Okay.
Yeah, it's a motorized fader. It's got you can, if you power it from USB, the fader is not motorized. If you power it from this guy here, the port, then it will be motorized. It also has a footswitch input, so you can use footswitch to enable, like, to stop and start recording, which is nice. Because a lot of times I'll do things like, if I'm sampling my Rhodes, I'm not right next to it. Like, so sometimes I'll set. That's another thing that I do is I have. So I've got a couple of different. Let me grab these. I've got some machine controllers, and sometimes I'll just place them around the studio in different spots, and I'll just use their transport controls. And it doesn't even have to be in machine. You can set it up in MIDI mode and use just the transport and stuff to start and stop your DAW. So I'll use that too, and it doesn't have to be machine. I mean, it can be. I mean, you can do that same stuff with like a Cuneo, and do faders from that, But the fader port works really well because it's integrated so tightly with Studio One that there's no setup. Like, you plug it in and you're ready to go. So I love that.
Wow. How much gear do you have in that spaceship you call a studio? between you and Upright.
I have like 2 or 3 pieces of kit, and the rest is all cardboard cutouts.
You got me looking all bad because I'm totally in the box. I got like 800 plugins. I got 800 hard synths.
And you know what? Something that I learned over the years was there's lots of different styles of people's workflow. Like, I've got a friend of mine who he's had really, fanciful equipment and everything, and he doesn't have kids, so he can buy whatever the hell he wants, and you know what I mean? Like, and he doesn't have to worry about a wife yelling at him or anything. And he has a nice studio in his house. And nowadays, all that's in there is, he's really big into cassette tapes. So, what up to Duke Clifton? He's real big into cassette. But on top of that, he has like maybe 2 MIDI controllers, and that's about it. Like, he's come to the realization that he really likes point and click producing. Like, he likes to use Logic, and he likes to use like Ultra Beat and stuff like that, and click it on the mouse. I'm not like that. Like, I need to be hands on. Like, I have to.
Yeah.
I think if that was me, I think we talked about this last stream. I started Reason, went hardware, then I had to go back in the box because there's things like I like hands-on. That's why I love Machine, but I hate tracking. I hate that I can't save. Okay, I have a bass here from my Trinity, and then say from like my XP30 I had a string line, and then I'm saving this on the EPS, and it doesn't always remember the MIDI code or the MIDI program changes because of course you only have 127 notches of MIDI.
Well, I have an answer to that though. So your thing was like you were using an EPS and other gear, and you didn't like having to save on multiple discs and trying to remember different things and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, it was just one disc because it was all sequenced from the EPS, and I just was saving sequences, trying to use the MIDI to recall patches.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I used to run into an issue when I was all hardware with, before using the computer at all, like when I was all MPC and just straight hardware. I used to hate saving on multiple pieces of hardware because it used to be like you would have to save on your Triton, save on your MPC, save on your EPS, save on your MoFat. You know what I mean? Like, you'd be saving on all these pieces of gear, and then when you go to reload the disc, especially if it was before even zip discs, which that was a real nightmare, because then your samples would be on like 15 discs. But, so you're saving these things, and now you got to write it all down in a journal or something, or write it on each disc. You got to write, okay, this beat is saved along with this, and then you'd have to rubber band your discs together or whatever. And it was just a real pain in the ass. But what I ended up doing was, as soon as the 2000 came out, and you were able to get 32 megabytes in there, and actually the ASRX was great for this because you could expand it to 64 megabytes. Which 64 megabyte sample time was so huge. But yeah, I used to I would do the beat, and then I would basically do stemming, and I would sample it all right back into the sampler, and then as samples and save it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So because like trying to save like so many different things out like that, I hated it. I absolutely hated it, and that's not how I use my hardware to this day. I can't. I don't work with my hardware in a way that, if I make a beat, like I don't come back to my modular expecting my modular to still be patched up that way. I mean, I might spend 5 hours patching this thing all together, and then the next day, that's gone. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you'll never hear that same analog sound again, So I sample it.
I think that's the part of the modular. I think that's a part of modular that I appreciate, that immediacy of, getting in there and coming up with something new.
Yeah.
So no presets, none of that. You just jump in and just start going, and
the presets are fun.
And see what comes out.
Well, presets for me are a great starting point and a great place to learn. Like, you can learn so much from just looking at a quality sound designer like Schultz or Richard Devine or Diego Stacco. You look at these guys and some of the patches that they make, like whether it be Omnisphere or especially if it's just a straight virtual analog synth, and you find a really interesting patch that's doing things that you're not used to, you can learn a lot from those guys just looking at what they did to get there, understanding how they did it. So, I mean,
I agree.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with presets, if you ask me, But at the same time, like people say, one man's preset is another man's piece of trash. One man's 5-hour work on a preset is somebody else's 5 seconds. They scroll through it and say, "Oh, this is trash."
Exactly. And actually, I used to be one of those guys that hated people who use presets.
Good point.
Eat it. And it took me a long time to actually accept. Some people just want to get in and make music. But I don't know. I think about it now, and I'm like, that's kind of silly.
Why don't you show everybody what you got?
Oh, what? This?
Your new toy.
This is just one of my new toys.
There you go.
I just finished installing it. That's why you see me messing with it. I've been installing it this whole time.
That was a pretty quick install, actually.
Yeah, I've been installing it about when did I get into the chat? About 2 hours ago. Yeah, it took about 2 hours to install.
Is that?
Yeah. Omnisphere wasn't exactly a fast install for me, so.
Not for me either. Actually, because I bought a new PC. For those of you that don't know, so I've been installing all my software. I had to reinstall Complete. That's the fastest Complete install I ever did too. It took me like an hour. First time I did it took me like 7.
1 hour for Complete? That's really fast.
That is fast.
For 8 and 9. I installed 8 first so I could get battery 3, and then added on to it on the back end, or the stuff at 9, and it took about an hour and a half. I was shocked.
Wow.
So that was a so you already had all that stuff on a hard drive, and then you just had to transfer the applications over, or what?
No, I still have discs. I transferred all. I reinstalled.
You did it on disk?
Yeah, on the actual Complete discs. Yeah.
That fast?
Yeah, I have standard, not ultimate.
Still, that's impressively fast.
That is pretty quick.
I mean, I do, you know, because I'm testing software and all, like, you know, I'm dealing with that kind of stuff a lot. Mm-hmm. And I remember the last time I installed all of my Native Instruments stuff, it took me pretty much an entire weekend.
Yeah, that was it for me. Like, I was shocked. In like 2-3 hours, I installed Complete 8 and 9, Omnisphere, and what was the other one I had on disc? I can't think of the other one I had on disc.
Wow.
That was another big one.
Fast.
Yeah.
I think a lot.
Computer, and I got it for like 800.
Yeah, 8 and 9 both took me about 5 to 6 hours to install. For Complete. So.
From the hard disk and not from the DVDs.
Right. I mean, I did from DVDs. And it could be, too, because we all know I'm a hardcore gamer, so I was playing Xbox as I was installing. So what I say 3 hours might have very well been 6 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm playing Battlefield, not paying attention.
So can you tell us what you did as far? You said you got a new PC. Did you build it or did you buy one or?
Oh, no, I bought an Asus at Best Buy. It's their gaming line. It's Core i7, 2 terabyte hard drive. There's an NVIDIA video card in there, which I got for video editing and for gaming. That PC game too. Yeah, and it was on sale, like I said, for $850. It's usually $1,000.
Not bad. Mm-hmm. And here I am spending $3,000 on a MacBook.
I've been telling you about buying that.
I'm actually heavily considering building up a PC as well, but that's not so much going to be for audio. Like it's going to be more for video and gaming. I'm a racing game fanatic. Like I love racing games and fighting games. But
if you're gonna get racing game, because the racing games on PC are crap. I just part of my splurging, I got an Xbox One, and I grabbed the new Forza 5 because tax time is amazing.
Can I get something, Kev? Can I get something?
Yeah, really. Why don't you share the wealth? What's happening?
I told you, my wife be holding back my debit card.
So,
Hold on a second.
One thing that they have been doing lately is there has been a bit of more software companies jumping into using video card processors for audio software processing. So having a really powerful video card in the future is likely going to be a real benefit, because just in the same way that somebody like UAD is doing with the Apollo for DSP, there's a push towards using these super powerful video cards and graphics cards for audio DSP, which could be really good, because you figure the type of processing power that they put into those cards. I mean, imagine if you were just applying that all to audio processing. You could do some really great things, because right now I can load up quite a few instances of Monarch, but that sucker will punch my CPU in the face, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I have a few different software VSTs that will, and especially reverbs. Like if you're using convolution reverbs,
yeah,
very, very processor intensive, especially if you're doing a project that has like, more than 30 tracks. That can be an issue, So I'd like to really see people, pushing hard on that.
Are you using your reverbs on synths, or are
just
you
on the Mac?
On the inputs?
I use my reverb. I use them different ways. So if I'm doing a song, I try to group as much as I can together. So like if I have overdubs, I try to do. I try not to put individual reverbs on individual tracks. I try to do the group track and then the reverb on that. Like I tend to find a little bit better.
Right. Gotcha.
So in one song, let's say I have one song and it's 3 verses, I might have maybe 3 to 4 reverbs on there for the vocals, depending on what I'm doing. Sometimes you want to get goofy and use a reverb as an echo or something like that. But then I might also be using it on drums or, on other, synth lines or whatever else. But that stuff will eat up CPU power fast.
Oh, yeah. I remember before Machine 2.0, I was actually big on the CSRs. I mean, I'm a T-Rax guy. I love IK stuff, so I use a lot of the T-Rax stuff. And, yeah, since when I started working with Machine 1.8, I realized I had to fall in love with stock reverbs for that reason, because it'll eat your CPU alive if you're not careful.
Yeah. So your latest thing that you've got is you've got a new PC and you've got Trillion.
And I got the Focusrite 686.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Kind of nice. I got it for the YouTube videos because so many people complain about me. What I would do is I'd put my mic up and I'd record the output from my speaker into my mic, and then people would complain like, "Oh, you should do direct input. You should do direct input." I have propeller heads balance, and it doesn't do that. Even if I took the output and plugged it into the input, it just won't work.
Yeah. I use a different setup, but.
So what I did is I got this Focusrite because I thought it had the loopback feature, and it doesn't. Only their FireWire cards do. So I might be taking this back and getting one of their Sapphires. I don't know.
Well, I would be careful about that, and I would talk to some of the friends that we know, because I do have some friends who've had problems with those cards. That some people like them, but I have heard some issues with them. So I would kind of research around, make sure it's going to work with your system.
Okay.
But I mean, there's other ways. I'll talk to you after the podcast. There's other ways of getting direct audio into there for your video. But so Mike, have you gotten anything since the last podcast?
Yep. I got a little piece of hardware that really makes my life easier, which is a manual USB switch, which is actually, I think it's to use one printer on 2 computers, but it works perfectly with my MIDI keyboard, so I don't have to unhook it from my iPad and plug it back into the computer.
Oh, nice.
I just press a button and I can use the keyboard for my iPad and the computer. That's really cool.
I might have to get one of those.
Yeah, I think it's about $10, so no brainer.
Yeah. What about you, Bryce? What's the most recent piece of kit that you've gotten?
I guess it would be that core gadget app. Man, and that
okay.
thing, I like that. I like that app a lot.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it basically, I mean, it got like a TB03, sounding synth in there. It's got, well, there's 15 devices in it. Full sequencer. I can't. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. I've been doing full tracks in that software by itself. It's
really.
It's real nice.
Now, are you using that?
So yeah.
Are you using it just with the iPad, or are you using external controllers on the iPad to control it?
Yeah, I'm just using it in the iPad, but I mean, you can use it as like if you have a MIDI the camera connection kit, you could use it as a module, you know, from Ableton or something like that. You can control it with Ableton. But I mean, me myself, I use it as just as the app. You know, I just make full tracks in that, and then you can export them and, you know, do whatever you need to do at that point. But yeah.
Are there a lot of options as far as exporting, or is it just a stereo file, or?
It's just a stereo file, and you know, you to get multiple tracks, you'd have to mute other tracks. You know, you'd have to do that whole thing, that whole song and dance, if you wanted to get multiple tracks. But yeah, I mean, it's a great app. It's a lot of fun. It sounds really good too.
How long? Yeah, I actually love the MS-20, and I use that. That's one of my top apps right now. Like, I still use it probably more than just about anything. They seem to be really good at iOS development, to be perfectly honest with you. I do enjoy Korg apps.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the Korg Poly app?
I do. I have that. Yeah, sounds great. Sounds amazing. That? I use that. I like it a lot. I use that as just a module. So I'll throw my iPad on the I/O dock and you know, run Ableton controlling the I/O dock and use it just like a VST pretty much, you know, and record the audio back into Live as an audio clip and use it like that. It's awesome. The Korg stuff is great. I have the MS-20, the Poly, and now the Gadget. So those are the three I have from Korg.
Hold on one second. While we're on the topic, where's mine? Let me grab it. So I've got a new app just the other day.
Nice.
And I'll show it real quick because the designer is a really good guy, and I want to support it because I think the app is great. So the app is called Sequential. And this thing is really cool. I'm going to bring it up to the camera so you guys can see it. So this is what it looks like. Hold on, let me kind of position myself a little bit here. There we are. And essentially what it is it's a sequencer, right, across here, but it's not sequencing sounds so much as it's sequencing effects. Now, he also has this as a what do you call it? AU audio.
Okay.
Audio unit plugin. And the audio unit plugins are a little bit deeper than what this can do. But the thing is that this is ridiculously fun because it's just so hands-on. So what you do is you load a sample. You can put samples into it. Of course, you can import them, and you can load a sample into it. I'm going to load this demo right here, and when you hit play, let me see if you can hear it. Can you guys hear it at all?
Yeah.
Now I'm just going to drag my hand across this thing real quick, and you'll see how it affects it.
Wow.
That's cool.
So, let me pause this thing.
So can that be recorded as like an automation kind of thing? Can you record that movement?
This is the cool thing about it is, so once you've done that, right, you can just export it. You can hit record, and it'll record it, and it makes it a perfect loop, same length, and
gotcha.
that so like this is hip hop beat. It'll become hip hop beat number 1, so it's non-destructive, and it makes its own sample, and then loads it across there, and then you can change that even further, you know, and get into even more depth with it. And right now there is so the top row is clean, then it goes to low pass filter, high pass filter, wave transformer, bit crusher, circuit bender, frequency shifter, sine oscillator, phase oscillator, noise generator, flanger, resonator, and it's got shuffle, so that you can have like a swing to it as it's going through, because it's basically like each sample is like sliced up, right? And you've got strobe, so it's like a tremolo. You can play it forward or reverse, and you can change the what the frequency of it is. Like for instance, if I hit play right now, and I can change the duration. If I change the duration, it'll go fast. It makes it sound really glitchy, and you can do different things like that, and you can have 8 scenes for those, which is really cool. But essentially, it's a way of like doing.
Does it work with? Does it work with live audio, like going through it, or does it?
No,
you have to load a sample.
I asked him about that as well, and he said that it won't do live audio or audio bus because it has to have the sample like chopped up in order to work like that. So
okay.
I'm hoping that there's some kind of further functionality that can be implemented, like maybe like a sample and then take that sample on the fly and do it, you know, or whatever. But and so each one of those effects, you have these draw bars on the side, so you can like the low, like for instance the low pass. If you drag it to the left, it's how low the low pass goes. The bit crusher, you know, how much are you bit crushing? So this is like the amount of the effect, and then each one of these is where each effect hits. So, and if you want multiple effects to hit at the same time, you would basically resample, you know, with that different placement, you know what I mean, and just export it. But very cool app. I think I want to say it's $2.99. It's called Sequential, and I recommend it. It's very cool. And his audio unit plugins go by the name of Sine Vibe. So I highly recommend him because he's really big into not available for Android, and I highly doubt that it'll ever be available for Android.
Not until they get Android, right?
He's a very Apple-centric guy. And let's be honest, Android is not a good platform for music. It's just not at all. I've done plenty of articles on Android and its latency problems and why it's not good for making music on it. But Sine Vibes is really, really into just clean, very nice looking you know, interfaces, and the sounds are great. I mean, so I highly, highly recommend checking them out.
Yeah, I'm gonna check out that app. Yeah.
Yeah. Sequential is really cool. I haven't imported my own sounds into it just yet. My main gripe with the iPad as a whole is the lack of like easy import.
Yep.
I really hate having to import things through like iTunes and whatnot. I haven't tried importing to this yet, but dear God, I wish they would just let you use a micro SD. I so wish that Apple would just pull its head out of its ass and let us import things easily, you know? But if I could do that, and I don't know if it uses Dropbox, and if it doesn't, I'm certainly going to recommend that, because I think that would be excellent for this. If you could import from Dropbox, very cool. I mean, I have Sequential for my computer as well, and I really like it, but the hands-on ability with it, like, sends it so much cooler. I mean, it's just, you could just quickly kind of, like, make these weird arrangements, and then next thing you know, like, it just sounds awesome. So, I love it. I absolutely love it. And like I said...
that app would be a good place to start to come up with a concept for a track, you know, just using that as a base, as a foundation. Yeah.
It sounds ridiculous with drum loops. Yeah, like when you throw drum loops through it, oh man, it sounds so cool. So that, and then, you know, if you throw that in front and then put audio bus on and toss like I love AU Dub Effects. I don't know if you've seen this app, but let me see if I can pull it up real quick so you can check it out. So I did a video on it once before, but they recently updated it, and it is it's a tape delay for iPad, and it is really, really good. Just fantastic sound, and I've been using that as like a tape delay unit instead of, like, I've been considering buying a Strymon El Capistan, which is a really, really nice tape delay guitar pedal that a lot of synthesis users are using right now, and they're selling like hotcakes, and they should, because they sound awesome. But instead of buying one of those, I've been using this this AU-FX dub, you know, iPad reverb or tape delay, and it sounds great.
It too. I bought it based on your video. It does sound great. It's amazing.
Have you checked out the latest update?
I haven't. I did get the update, but I didn't get a chance to check it out yet.
Check it out.
I'll probably do that today.
It's like having a complete Frippertronics inside of your iPad, and it is ridiculous. It can do so many cool things, and it's a very simple interface, but that's what we want. I mean, I want it to be simple so that I can just use what I need to use, you know?
Ken got me here ready to buy an iPad.
Oh, if you don't have an iPad, you're an idiot. And
I have an iPhone.
No, doesn't count. You need like, don't buy any more computers, sir. You need to have an iPad in your studio, because there's just too much on it. Like, I use for my audio interface for my iPad, I use I have a Tractor 10 here, and
nice.
I use that as my audio interface, you can just plug it right in.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I have right here, I have my the camera connection kit for my iPad, and that runs straight to the Tractor Audio 10. Tractor Audio, all the Native Instruments interfaces work with iPad. All the newer ones, at least. The Tractor KA6, which I have over here for my turntable setup, the Tractor Audio Interface 10, and the Native Instruments Complete Audio 6 all work with iPad. So as long as they're on a powered hub, so that they're getting power, you can plug right into it and be good to go.
I'm not buying an audio interface. I've had this one for 48 hours.
Yeah, that's not a good sign, Kev.
The taxes are so beautiful.
So, yeah, as far as what I've gotten since the last podcast, where to start?
I'm just waiting for the lights to come down. Aliens start walking down the stairs in the back.
Well, I guess the first thing I would have to say is, what did I get most recently? Well, I modified my reverb on my modular synth to be more clean, so that was a really great upgrade. And then I think I had the SOB. I got something else for my modular, and I don't remember what it was.
Turning machine, or what? You had that, right?
What's that?
The turning machine.
Oh, that's what I did. Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. So I built. Getting back to the DIY thing that we were talking about, the Korg. This is true DIY right here. This is called a Touring Machine Ultimate, and what it is right here is one module. I know it's kind of dark. So this is one module, this is a second module, this is a third module, but they all work together. And it's a random sequence generator. And then it has, here is a clock divider, and the clock divider basically, so as the sequence is coming out of it, the clock divider sends different timing. So let's say this is the 1, this would be like triplets, and then you could do like, you know, 8th notes, etc. off of it. And then this expander here is called the voltages, and the voltages, these little sliders, are weird, is the best way I can explain it. They basically change the pitch relative to the random pitch that's coming out of this module. But because it's an analog module, you can clock analog, like what I was talking about the Beatstep not being able to do. So right now, it's running as a VCO. I have it clocked at audio frequency, so it's running so fast that it's in the audio spectrum, and you can play it like a synthesizer and use these sliders to kind of change the waveform shape, which is pretty darn cool. I did a short video on that on Facebook. I'm going to have a detailed video on that later. I also got some new software. What did I get? Mangle. Mangle VST is a very interesting, a very interesting piece of software that was also just recently updated for the beta users. Do you have it, Bryce?
I don't have it, but it sounds interesting.
Mangle is it's granular synthesis like I haven't seen before. Let me see if I can find a link to it. Very, very cool piece of gear. And here, let me just pull it up for you. I'm going to post a link right now in the chat room. And essentially, it lets you take audio into it, completely change it around, and mess with it. The interface on it is gorgeous looking. And
wow, okay.
And it's all vector based too, which I love because the graphics are vector based. You can change it and make the interface as small as you want or as big as you want, and not get in your way, which is really, really nice. So I've been using that a little bit, and the interface is just really simple, but it sounds awesome. I love it. Really, really fun.
Ken, thank you for showing me that link. Now I have another reason for my wife to be mad at me at night.
Well, Mangle is also really cheap too. It's let me see if I can find the price on it again. It's very, very cheap right now. It's still in its infancy. It's like $25 or something.
Yeah, 19 euros.
Yeah, it's really cheap, but it's just very good. Here's the link.
I found it on the YouTube video. I'm looking at it now.
Is that Sound Guru?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sound Guru?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. So very, very cool. I highly recommend it because for that kind of price point, super fun. Super fun.
I'm gonna save this.
Mm-hmm.
Give me something to do, spending some time with.
Nice.
Is this available for Mac too? I don't see any info.
Mac and PC.
Looks like it's
cool.
You know Ken don't run PC.
Looks like it's endorsed by Richard.
Well, and that's the other thing I wanted to say is so everybody's aware of Jordan Rudess and who he is. Jordan Rudess, for those who don't know, probably aren't watching enough product demos, but he basically everything. I mean, that guy is everywhere. He's the keyboardist for Dream Theater, insanely talented keyboardist. But he demos everything and then some. I mean, I would not be surprised to see him demoing a plunger, you know?
You see him in the next Big Mac commercial.
I'm starting to feel like Richard Devine is becoming the same way about modular synthesizers. I see him demoing
I'm with you on
every
that.
new module that comes out, which I'm not hating.
Definitely.
Because he's amazing at it. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, he is.
He seems to be everywhere these days, which is great. You know, to see a sound designer, you know, get as much recognition as he's getting. I mean, there's certain sound designers that I really, really like. Diego Stacco is extremely high on my list. Richard Devine, extremely high on my list. Howard Scarr, extremely high on my list. You know, these guys are really great, and you see a lot of the software companies now are starting to actually use sound designers' names as a promotional tactic and as an advertising tactic, which I think is great to see. You know, sound designers finally getting some due. Because how many songs have we heard on the radio that were nothing more than a sound designer's preset, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of people wouldn't be making music without presets.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Umbrella, that was nothing more than a bunch of presets. It was
Logic presets.
Rihanna's Umbrella was
A couple Logic presets.
Yeah.
Let's remember Grandin by the Clips was just a chord Triton preset.
Yeah, that was Triton. That was a Triton. Yeah, that was a Triton demo. Yeah, I mean, that was like, it couldn't get more basic than that. There was a Beastie Boys song that was the same way. It was like an old Yamaha demo, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it's funny when people say things like, and like I said, I used to be this way too. Oh yeah, well people always say, you know, pros don't use presets. My whole thing was know the gear you have, and then you look around like, what are you a pro at? Are you a pro keyboardist? Are you a pro?
People get really hung up on that word pro as well. You know, pro, I've found. I mean, you can sit there and you can voice the opinion of, or the fact of what the dictionary of pro is. But, I mean, let's be realistic. Like, when people are saying pro these days, what they really mean is that somebody who takes their business seriously. You know what I mean? Somebody who is really dedicated to it. And at the same time, like you said, it's about knowing your gear. And if your gear is able to produce the sound that you want, then use the sound that you want.
Exactly.
Right.
It's easy to hate on people because they're successful.
Yeah, it is.
And got there easily. You know what I mean? Or got the success from not spending hours and hours and hours doing, you know, something that you're trying to do because you think it's more in depth, therefore it has more substantiality to it. But the fact of the matter is, you know what, they probably were spending a lot of time on their gear too, but they said, hey, this sounds good, I want to use it.
Right. If it sounds good, it is good.
Yep.
It's the most basic of basic rules.
Now, when is Music Mesa?
April, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. In the middle of April.
Is there anything you guys are expecting to see for that?
No, just the same things done on Namm.
Because I gotta say, I'm really expecting to see a large push from the software guys. Like I think that this year is going to be a huge year for Music Mesa. I really do.
From last year there weren't too much software companies.
I think this year is going to be a major changing of the guard for that. I think you're going to see a lot of software come out right around Music Mesa, and it's going to be really big.
I think a lot of it's going to be Bitwig. You're going to see a lot of Bitwig.
I think you're going to see a lot of Bitwig. I think you're going to see Arturia come out software-wise, heavy-handed, because Arturia's been doing a lot of hardware stuff lately, but software-wise, they've got Spark 2.
Yes.
They updated all the V collection, which I've recently been reviewing, to 64-bit, but it's still the same plugins from before. So they've had time. Like, I'm expecting to see something from Arturia on the software side.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
I'm expecting to see big things from Arturia. I'm expecting to see some. Native Instruments doesn't do the trade shows anymore, but I'm expecting to see big announcements from them around that time frame. And it seems to me like Isotope just always has something cool.
Yeah.
You know? I wouldn't be surprised to see some more cool stuff coming from Sound Toys either, because they seem like they've been doing really well. And
what are your thoughts, Flux, on this whole Aria thing, the Roland thing? Because it's been, you know, I'm like, what's going on? What is this really all about? It's like a,
you know what? My personal viewpoint, like, part of me really wants to hate on it hard. Like, part of me is like, oh, it's not analog, like, or at least from all reports that I've heard, it's not analog, and it's digital. So I want to, like, part of me wants to be like, no, and then smack somebody. But another part of me is like, you know what? This is the first really new product line, because let's be honest, like the Integra was the last big product that Roland really did, and that wasn't that new. Like, I mean, it was new, but it was them basically saying, oh, we're taking all of our old stuff and putting it into something smaller. You know what I mean? It wasn't all new sounds. Yeah, exactly. Roland has become kind of a laughing stock to the people in the know. Roland has become basically laughed at because they keep taking their same sounds, rehashing them. Ever since Eric Persing's left and started Spectrasonics, what have they done? And, you know, you look at things like the Jupiter 80, and it's all like, you know, people are saying you're taking these legacy names that everybody well respected, and a lot of people feel that they're crapping all over these names and these products by doing that. Roland's viewpoint apparently seems to be that they never cared about whether it was analog or digital. They just wanted to use best technology at the time, which is why they used analog when they did, which is why they went FM when they did, and why they did this and that, and
Makes sense.
So, I mean, and that's fine, but what have they done since the V-Synth that has made anybody excited? Like, can you name a single product post V-Synth that got you hype?
Did the MB8000 come out before or after the V-Synth? That's the last thing I think
that was technically, I want to say that was before, and the 88. The 88 doesn't really count because the 88 was nothing more than the 8000, but they weren't allowed to do the circuit boards with LED in the UK anymore, so they had to basically revamp it a little bit, and then they put the new operating system in there. But it wasn't very much different from the 8000 to begin with.
Exactly. It's like they made, like, for at least on the US side, I didn't know that happened.
Yeah,
they added color to it. That was the only difference I really saw.
Yeah, there was at that time they stopped allowing, I guess it's like lead-based solder or whatever in products in the UK, and so they had to change their circuit boards, from what I understand. And that's why there's very minimal changes to it. I'm really kind of I'm not super excited, but I'm also not going to crap on it either. Like, I haven't heard it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, more interested in the TR-08 thing that they're doing is the TB-03 thing that they got going on. Like, they have it looks like there's like a touch screen kind of controller thing that they have. And
I'm trying to,
because it's not just one thing, it's 3 products.
Right. Okay. Got it. Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out, because it looks like there's a SH. I'm gonna think it's an SH. SH101 something maybe, and then the TB. Yeah. And then there's that effects module, and then the
it's
the TR-808.
It's somewhere between 3 to 5 units, because I've seen different pictures, and it's kind of hard to tell.
Right. Okay.
And I'm interested. The hype that they're doing for it, I'm kind of like, I go back and forth on. Like, part of me is irritated by it, and part of me doesn't care about it, and part of me does care about it. So it's
I'm disappointed.
Apparently it works though, because everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, but we talked about it because we want to know what it was. Now we know what it is, and it's like, really?
Well, we don't know what it is fully. I mean, we have ideas, but we haven't really had hands-on with it. We haven't had
My question is,
dig in.
Why weren't they at NAMM? That's what I want to know. I want to know what's the point of kind of sidestepping NAMM? What is that?
I was wondering the same thing.
I would assume
NAMM especially is about hardware.
I thought that was odd that they would announce it before NAMM, but then not show it at NAMM. I thought that was kind of odd.
Me too. Very odd.
It doesn't really affect me so much. Like I get that people wanted to see it, but I don't necessarily understand the upset that it wasn't there. Like, to me, it's like, okay, well, apparently it's not ready yet. Like, so
why announce it?
Well, because you want everybody talking about it when the press is going as busy as it can possibly be. And to be perfectly honest with you, by not showing it, they probably got way more press than if they had shown it and it was digital and everybody was like, oh, poo-poo, it's digital. Like, I'm not saying it matters that it's digital. I'm not really even saying that. But what I am saying is that if it came out when everything else came out and it was digital, it may have gotten swallowed up by some of the other things out there. The Sub 37.
You got a good point. Yeah.
The Sub 37 took up a lot of press. The Beatstep took up a lot of press, and got people really hype about that kind of stuff. So maybe by not showing it, they were smarter.
Maybe.
To me, the Sub 37 though. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the winner.
Like, the Sub Fatty, I think, is great, but the Sub 37 is
that thing's amazing.
That's the first Moog that I have wanted probably more than a Voyager. I actually want that more than the Voyager. I really like the fact that it has looping ADSR on it, which
Yep.
the only other place I know of to get looping ADSR in an analog synth is one of these guys. So, you know, like I'm using my ADSR looping right now. So to me, that's really cool. That the modulation matrix in that thing looks awesome. I think they hit it out of the ballpark on that thing. The price point I think is right. I think it's 2 VCO and a sub oscillator.
I think so, yeah.
So, I mean, realistically speaking, a Voyager is 3 oscillators, but a lot of the times the third oscillator is used as an LFO anyway. And that thing has multiple LFOs, and I mean, come on.
What's the price again? Is it $1,000?
$14.99.
$14.99. Okay. Yeah.
Sub Fatty is about $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm just happy that it was poly. Like they had me sold at poly.
Well, it's not poly. It's
duophonic or something like that.
It's paraphonic.
Paraphonic. There you go.
Paraphonic, but it's actually all that it really means is that, like, to really make it simple for people to know, is it's the one filter, one VCA, and it is you can play the 2 oscillators at different pitches.
There you go.
You can set one oscillator to a low pitch and one oscillator to a high pitch. You can play it like that.
Also, like split keys.
Sort of. I mean, you can, but they're all going through the same filter.
Right.
Right? And whereas on a true polyphonic, you'd be playing through separate filters and everything, and separate VCA.
Got me all excited.
Yeah, well, duophonic, I mean, you can still do some really cool things with it. The way that I can achieve that already, and you can achieve it if you have a micro brute and a mini brute. You can do that with that combination as well. Actually, I mean, you can achieve true duophonic with that. But
right.
Something cool that I've been doing with mine is, I'll show you, is when you're playing with a setup like this, I use the micro as the master and the mini as the slave, but all the audio goes this way. So all the audio is going this way, up, and then back into here. So, but the key is this. So I saw Mark Doty, who does automatic gain C on YouTube, which his videos are phenomenal. I'm a huge fan. So anybody who likes analog synths, I highly recommend his channel. But he recently did a video of these two combined, and the way that he combined them was just by MIDI. To me, that is a way of doing it, but there's personally what I think is a little bit more flexible, better way of doing it is to use the CV output on these to send pitch and gate into here to control it. And when you do that, and you're not using the MIDI or the key bed of whatever controller is the slave, you can transpose on it. So, for instance, if this is my main oscillator, if you press a key on here, you can transpose your second oscillator, which would be the mini brute. I can go, so if I press this key, like if I go all the way down, press this, I'm in unison mode, basically. Like I'm playing, the pitches are all going to be the same.
Oh, okay.
But if I press, a fifth from C, if I press this key, now my second oscillator is, detuned to a fifth. It's up-tuned to a fifth that way. So you can get some really interesting techniques if you use the CV instead of the MIDI. Like CV has some really great usage, and I'm really happy to see more products coming out with CV as opposed to just MIDI.
Now, when it comes to the micro brute and the mini, which one do you prefer sound-wise? If you could only have one. Now, I know you need both. I know you need both, but
if you could only have one, it's very tough to say. I mean, it would depend on why you would only have one. So, like, if you wanted to be portable synth, then of course you could go with a micro brute. They each are they each have such pros and cons to them as far as what you can do with each one, that you can't go wrong with either one. And it just depends on what you want to use in your workflow. Like, to me personally, they're both equally as useful. Like, 100, and they do sound slightly different. Like, the Micro Brute has more tame sound, whereas the Mini Brute sounds more brutal. Like, it sounds like it clips a little bit more, and the filter is a little bit more ruckus. And I don't have multiple Micro Brutes or multiple Mini Brutes to compare, side by side. So it might just be the difference from one to another. Who knows? But the Micro Brute definitely on mine is a much more subtle filter than the Mini Brute. That being said, if I could only have one, I would probably pick I'd probably pick the Mini Brute. I really like the Mini Brute a lot. Like it, and it has more functionality. But that being said, I would also modify it. I would, and I'm going to be modifying mine very, very, very soon. I'm going to do a breakout box on it, so that it has more CV outputs in the way that the Micro Brute does. The Mini Brute has features that the Micro Brute doesn't. It has multiple different waveforms for the LFO that the Micro Brute does not have, like random, and so I'm going to be modifying mine to have outputs for individual waveforms so that I can tap into those. But that being said, I got my Micro Brute for $250. Like,
yeah, true. Yeah.
That is an insanely cheap price.
Yeah.
Insanely cheap. I mean, how do you justify not owning one? That's my question.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
Me personally, I can't. I can't see any reason why anybody doesn't have one. Period. Like, unless you just literally can't pay your bills, and even then. Let's be realistic. Your kids don't need to eat. You don't really need gas in your car. I mean, you can walk. So for me, it comes down to if you can spare like $250, like there's no reason whatsoever why you should not have one, because you can use it for so many different purposes. I mean, just running drum breaks through the filter is ridiculous. I do that constantly. I'm running drum breaks through it. I'm using it as a controller. I'm using it to control my modular. I mean, it's awesome. They hit that, and that's what Arturia is doing right now. Is they have their finger on the pulse of
they're killing it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Is there any companies out there right now that you feel like have the potential to really do well but keep missing the mark?
Akai.
You knew that was coming.
Seriously.
What about what they're doing? Do you feel like is a miss?
I think back in the days, they had such a big name and they stand for quality, but all the new stuff they're bringing out, except for the really pricey stuff, like the low budget keys and stuff like that, I don't know. The quality is just not like back in the days, and that's one thing they really losing their name, in my opinion, at the moment. Because the same thing with the MPC, when they came out with the MPC Renaissance, and it wasn't even 64-bit software. I mean, come on, it's 2000, or it was 2012 or 13. Yeah. I can't remember. It was already outdated when it came on the market.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. When I hear it's already outdated when it comes on the market, I was surprised by some of the tactics that they were using. Things like NPC branded headphones are a sign of the times. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
To me, like when I saw that, I was like, I wanted to vomit. Like I was just
Yeah.
like, really?
I'll be honest with you. The that element, that little their cheapest entry into the MPC line. I'll be honest, that out of all their stuff lately has kind of slightly piqued my curiosity, just because
Well,
of
you
the
know what that
price
is,
point.
right?
Yeah, well, essentially just a slim, dumbed down version of the Renaissance software
No,
and the
I mean the
Fly.
hardware.
Oh yeah, the Fly. That's
Yeah, but yeah, that's the
Yeah,
fly. And they just took
right.
the cover off because those things
Yeah,
are doing
yeah,
apparently.
yep. Yeah, they failed on that. They from what I heard, the MIDI notes were all switched up and messed up, and
Yeah,
it was just a mess.
and that's the thing is like, so let's say that I'm wrong. Let's say that's not why they did the element. Let's say that the fly is perfect. Yay. Right? Even if that's the case, when you bring out something that clearly is using the iPad parts, the bottom of the barrel iPad parts, and you put your premium product's name on it like that, you lower the quality of the rest of your brand.
Yeah, totally.
When
Definitely.
you bring out massive amounts of MIDI controllers that have quote-unquote MPC pads, and then people use them and the pads are terrible,
Yeah,
you lower the quality of the brand.
definitely.
And they've been doing this for years. They've been doing this really since 2002.
Since the MPC 1000.
Yeah, well, yeah, since kind of sort of since the 2000. If you like the 2000 XL, in my mind was like the last really good MPC. The 1000 was decent in the fact that it was a small package and it had some great features, but the build quality at that point was already trash. If you remember the first 1000s,
yeah, that's what I meant. The first 1000.
The first 1000s were terrible as far as build quality. Like their pads were breaking, the sensors, like they changed the pad sensors and they were snapping.
Yeah, the blue ones.
Yeah.
The blue ones were shit.
Yeah, the blue one. And the 2000 XL, like, you know, even the 2000 XL came out so close after the 2000 because of like really simple missteps. And it was like, okay, so you guys made these like really simple missteps. The 4000 when it came out had a lot of flaws in it when it first came out.
But they fixed those, didn't they?
Well, yeah, but my point is that we're talking about flaws that, I mean, you know, this stuff should have been, you know, it's hardware. It's not software on 50 billion different styles of PC setups.
Right.
It's
the
like,
weird thing is about
especially if you're spending over $2,000 on a piece of hardware.
Yeah, definitely. The weird thing about their build quality is that, you know, they made push for Ableton, and that controller is so solid, man. It's built great. Pads feel great. Knobs are great. I can't find a single flaw.
The Renaissance feels quality. Like, the Renaissance feels quality, but it's also, like, ridiculous. Like, on the same... You can champion it for its build quality, and you can also throw fireballs at it for its build quality because it's so chunky and it's so. And also, like, you look at certain aspects of it where, like, the audio interface on the front of it looks like it was just kind of slapped into a mold. Like, it wasn't actually, like, you know what I mean? Like, they kind of, like, did certain aesthetic things that just make you question, like, what are your designers thinking? You know? And,
yeah.
Like,
they were thinking, oh shit, machine's taking all our money.
Well, I don't even want to get into like a whole, like, you know, somebody else's beating, like, competition aspect of it. I'm talking about it strictly on the aspect of, like, this is a product that, you know, people grew up to love, and now, like, the people who are running it these days seem to have decided to just take it as a cash cow. Like, they just want to release these products that honestly are, you know, based around wordplay. Like, they're saying, oh, we have MPC pads, but those MPC pads are literally only MPC pads because you own the name MPC and put the name on it.
Exactly.
I mean, like, it has no relationship to previous MPC pads.
No, right.
And they even admit to that. So it's like, well, then why are you doing that? Why don't you build a quality product and just name it something different instead of ruining the name of a classic product? Same with Roland. Roland was doing the same thing, you know?
Oh, the Junos.
Yeah, the Junos.
How the hell do you have a Juno that's like a stripped-down Phantom?
Yeah, well, if you're going to do that, then why not just make a new product and call it something new? Instead of ticking people off or trying to make sales off of a name and then get people depressed because it's not what they expected.
I think they were going after kids. Kids like, hey, I might have heard the Juno name. I might have heard the Jupiter name. But they don't really know what it is, and then they get a workstation and they think, well, I have a Juno or I have a Jupiter. No, you have a stripped down Phantom. Or maybe even an updated Phantom in the case of the Jupiter.
And that's the other thing is that they released the new Phantom at NAMM.
The FA?
Good Lord, that thing looks like such trash. I have zero interest in it. And yes, I get that a gigging musician is who the workstation is usually geared towards, but let's be realistic, hip-hop producers are also who are using those an awful lot. And the FA, to me, sparked less than zero interest. And I'm a guy who was never really big on workstations, but at the same time, when the Phantom G came out, and the G was really just a slight update of the X.
Yeah, see, I was more
which
to the
was
X.
just an update of the S, But the G, I was like, oh, that looks really cool. Like, I like what they did with the supernatural drum modeling and that kind of stuff. It looked cool. The FA, I had zero interest in. Like, not even a little bit.
I don't even see, like you said, they're trying to gear it. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Like you said, they were trying to gear it toward hip-hop producers. I don't think they're worried about hip-hop producers at all anymore. I don't know any hip-hop producers outside of the people who, like, have had these workstations for years. Like, these guys that have been using the Motif ES, they're still probably using that ES. A lot of us have gone on to Contact or then,
right.
you have the Pirates. You can't get away from the Pirates. I still use Sample Tank a lot.
Well, to that same effect, you saw what Korg did, right?
About what?
Their new Triton?
I saw that, and I'm a Triton fanatic. Like, when I started out, that's what I couldn't afford a Triton, but I wanted one. So that was one of the things I forgot because that really caught my eye too.
I had one and hated it.
I like the Triton sound.
That Triton it's a keyboard.
It's a controller.
Or is it
it's a controller with sounds.
It's essentially a machine for the workstation.
See, that's not the way I saw it. I thought you can get the controller version with no sounds, just a straight MIDI controller.
Yeah.
Or for like $100 more, you can get it and it has the Triton sound library. But it's it's all
pre-mapped out. It's all pre-mapped out, which is also what Arturia does. Arturia has the Keylab series, and all their sounds are already mapped directly to those Keylab controllers.
I see. So it's running software.
To me, that's really, aside from guys who are gigging constantly, because it's just not as practical to do concerts with a laptop or desktop out on stage because there's just too much chance for a computer crash or some kind of screw up. That's why you're using workstations. It's not because you like the sounds. It's because you need to
dependability and reliability.
Yeah, reliability. It's a reliability issue. So, I mean, if they get the software and everything down to a point where everything is really, really reliable, receptors have been on stages for a long time now. So who's to say that, if let's say like Native Instruments took what they did with the studio, put it into a full-on keyboard for their complete sound library, or Arturia did the same and instead of just doing the Keylab series, like made it more integrated to where you don't have to look at the computer screen to browse your sounds. Like, I don't have the Keylab. I'm hoping to get one in for review, but I think you can do a little bit of browsing from the controller. Like I think there's a little screen on it that you can do some browsing, but I'm talking like in-depth control of your library in the same way that a Triton would be, but just use software. I think that's just the way of the future. I think the writing's on the wall for that now. I mean,
you got a good point.
There's certain technologies that I feel like haven't been taken advantage of yet that I got to question. I mean, you're even seeing guitar players are using iOS stomp box pedals on stage now.
Yeah.
Why not make your Triton into an iPad? and then the controller and the iPad work together or something, you know?
It's the same reason they wouldn't give us a Triton VST, and people were begging for a Triton VST for years. Why not? And all they did was update the Legacy collection to 64-bit a year ago. I think at this point we can consider the Triton classic.
Well, the Triton had a model called the Classic. I had it.
No, I mean the Triton series.
I'm joking.
No, I almost bought a Triton classic like 3 hours ago when I picked up Trillion. I was in there like, no, Kev, don't do it, don't do it. But yeah, I think they should have made the software.
Particularly liked the Tritons. I know a lot of people swore by them, and that's fine. Like, you know, and that gets back to, like, you know, Triton motif Phantom.
What's your preference?
Personally, sound-wise, easily the motif.
No. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I got personal on that.
Oh, no.
Design
I
aesthetic.
like the motif, and I like the Triton for different reasons.
I like how the Phantoms look. I like how the motifs sound. And actually, I also really did like the Korg M3. I liked it. It surprised the crap out of me. Because I almost bought, I was between a G, a Phantom G, and the M3. And I went to look at them, and I wanted to like the G more, but the M3 sounded better to me. Like, I liked it more. But I hated the aesthetic of it. I felt it was designed terribly. Like, those faders felt so disgusting on my fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like hard, like narrow plastic that would, like, no thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
no, I agree with you. The rack's better off. You're better off with the rack.
I just don't understand how these companies are multi-million-dollar companies and they have designers that are doing things so half-assed.
I don't think they're doing half-assed. I think they're hiring people who don't make music or who don't have studios or who have this one keyboard and don't really get how does this work?
Yeah, but
for a musician.
In that same regard, like, there's no person on this planet that you can tell me that would prefer the feel of an M3 fader, the plastic knob cap on that M3 fader, to something smooth.
Oh, I agree with you.
Like, that thing just did not feel good on your fingers at all. And, like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what feels good on your hands and what doesn't.
Oh, I actually agree with you. That's why I think they hired people that just like, oh, well, this is cheaper and this works, but not necessarily based it on, real world use.
Yeah. So I think we're going pretty long in the show, and we still don't know if everything is streamed out properly.
It is. I've been chatting with people from my phone on Facebook, and we gotten people on YouTube. People have asked a few questions. Somebody did mention, though it's kind of not relevant, about Music Mesa. That's when the Propeller had announced rack extensions, but that was in 2012. I don't think we're going to see anything this year from Propeller.
Were they at Music Mesa though? Were they there?
Yeah. They usually go.
They
stopped going to NAMM because they're in Sweden, but they do go to Music Mesa every year.
Well, one of the things that's of note about Music Mesa is a lot of the main software companies that we all know and love are based out of Germany. Let's be realistic. Germany is killing the software market. Like
Europe in general.
Yeah, but Germany especially. I mean, Germany is really going hard as far as just taking care of business on the software side. So it behooves them to go to Music Mesa because it's right down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like
a lot of German companies don't even show up there, like Native Instruments, like Ableton, and
I forgot Ableton was German.
I've heard the rumors or reasons why Native Instruments won't do NAMM anymore, and I understand it. I don't disagree with it. But for Music Mesa, it's like, dude, that's your hometown. Like, support that. Do that. Ableton, Bitwig. Who else is there? Arturia is French, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're French.
Yeah, I mean, that's not that far, though. I mean, it's like, it's not as far as America is, that's for damn sure. So it's like,
I think Arturia was there last year.
Yeah. I want to see
probably turn off the microbird.
I want to see Music Mesa be bigger. Like right now, Music Mesa and Summer NAMM are pretty similar. I think Summer NAMM is a little bit crappier, personally. Like, I'm not a fan of Summer NAMM at all. It's usually just a bunch of, like, tweed guitar amps and,
Yeah. It's like when we talk about music and our production stuff that's come out, everybody talks about Nam. Nam is like the freaking Super Bowl. Music Messa, I think it's more like NBA All-Star Weekend. People watch it, but not like people watch the Super Bowl. P.S. Go Hawks. I have to. I'm from Seattle. I had to say it at least once.
Companies like Native Instruments not using Nam, it's okay when it's one or two companies that aren't doing it. Because everybody's still checking for the music industry info during NAMM, and by default it spills over, and if Native Instruments announce something, everybody's going to pick up on it as a NAMM announcement, you know what I mean, even though they're not actually on the floor. But if more companies do the same thing and don't show up to these things, I think that's bad for us, because then there's something about being able to, as a music journalist and someone involved in production, being able to go there and have hands-on and make the connections and talk to the people who are involved in it. When I went there last year, it was less about the products as it was meeting the people behind the products and getting to talk to them.
Exactly.
So on that level, it's like you gotta, you know, if Native Instruments isn't going to be there, you know, showcasing, at least send some of the developers over there and talk to them. And last year they had a few of their guys were there. You know, I saw certain individuals from Native Instruments there and talked to them a bit, but it's not the same as actually demonstrating there and showing off what you have and, you know, making those connections in that way. But I think part of that is also having a strong community manager goes a long way. So when you have a company like Native Instruments or Arturia, like a software company, or even hardware, that can reach out and get to the masses through public channels, such as all of our websites and everything, and kind of reach out to people, it makes a big difference in the public perception of those products. If a company is more reserved and holding back and not, you know, showcasing these things, it kind of makes people think a certain way about the product, you know?
I think a perfect example of that, and as much as I love them, with Sample Tank 3, people were so pissed off about not hearing much for them and not seeing it. My thing is, it probably just wasn't ready, but I think a lot of people now have a really negative taste in their mouth that isn't very well deserved.
Yeah, and I don't think IK has really handled getting out there in front of the press and saying, listen, you know, here's what we're doing. You know, like, they've done a few little things here and there, but they haven't been out in front as hard as I think they could, heading it off. And it's not always the community manager's fault. Sometimes it's the people behind the scenes telling the community manager what he or she can or cannot say. And that can be a problem too. You know?
Exactly.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Like, I talk to these guys a lot, and they're great guys. It's just it upsets me sometimes to see the flack they get, because I think it's going to be amazing.
I'm hoping for good things from Sample Tank, but I'm one of those people who currently has a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. I've had, you know, all the Sample Tank products and all that, and right now they don't even make my install list, you know? Like, and I'm not, like, I mean, I might have access to a lot of stuff, but I'm not one of those guys who you know, has an overt amount of software plugins on my computer and just keeps them off. Like, you know, I know some people who have so many plugins and then they only keep certain ones on there for a reason. I'm not so much that guy. I don't keep it on there because it's not well supported. And I don't use cracked software, and I don't use crappily supported software. And that's how I feel about Sample Tank. Sample Tank 2 has not been supported well at all in the past 2 years. Granted, it's old as dirt, but I'm saying in the past 2 years, it hasn't been supported at all. Would you disagree with that, Kevin?
What I would have liked to have seen from them on Sample Tank 2, what I would have liked to have seen, I would have liked that 64-bit update for Sample Tank 2, and then them do Sample Tank 3. That would have made more sense to me.
I agree with that.
Than making us wait, but I get.
They said it was a porting issue. That's what I'm hearing. That they had an issue porting it because of the way they originally coded it. It was hard to make it 64-bit and stable. and that's why they just went to Sample Tank 3. That's the story that
that's oftentimes the case with software as well.
So they overhauled it.
Yeah, I've dealt with that problem with a few different software companies where they want to provide something, but in order to do it, they have to completely break everything in order to do it, and it's just not feasible.
Exactly.
Now, is Sample Tank 3 is it available yet?
No, they showed. I think they showed it at NAMM because people believed they weren't working on it.
They showed like a picture of it or something.
No, there are people playing. Like there's a Jordan Rudess demo. There's a guy actually on the NAMM floor doing a demo with it. I forget. It's Paul something. I forget his name. Playing piano parts on it. So I mean, there's demos out there. But I'm thinking it's probably gonna be a spring release, maybe early summer. I don't know. They won't tell me.
Oh, okay. They haven't said anything official. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if they're doing a beta program on that yet or what, but they need to.
Oh, I've been begging for a beta. I'm begging them to do a beta and let me be a part of it, and I've been doing it for a year, asking for a year.
I'm hoping they get out because at one point it was a market leader, and it hasn't been for God knows how long now.
I think that has to do a lot with the age of it too.
That's what I'm saying is it was a market leader. How they let it lapse this long to the point where, realistically speaking, Sample Tank has not been a legitimate front runner for way longer than it should have. Like, ideally, you would want your product to kind of start to tailor off as a market leader, and then your next product is coming up under it, and then you bring in that other product. Theirs is kind of like come way down. It's off the radar, and now they're trying to bring Sample Tank 3 back up, and it's like
I don't know. There's still a buzz about it. Like people still talk a lot about it, but
that's only because they release Sample Tank 3 and all of its expansions for like $20 every 6 months.
You cut out?
I said that's because they release Sample Tank 3 and all of its expansion products every couple months for like $20, and then everybody who doesn't have it buys it, and then they're like, oh, the support on this is terrible, and then it falls away again.
I don't know. I haven't, and maybe, like I said, it's because I talk to those guys semi-regularly. Maybe I haven't had any issues with support for Sample Tank 2. Like I can email them, but like I said, maybe it's who I am. I usually get a response from them in a day, sometimes a couple hours.
You trying to say they just don't like me? I understand. I don't disagree with it.
It's because they don't like modular people.
Listen. I've been made aware of how terrible I am by many of my YouTube haters. So.
Oh yes.
Cheers.
Oh no. Cheers. Dude, my favorite hater. This guy. He harassed me on forums. He's made fake Facebook accounts, fake YouTube accounts. He's probably in this stream right now.
He probably is. Yep. Oh, I don't doubt it. I've got one that has gone so far as to get my phone number and call me.
Wow.
Yes. Okay, he hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, I've had people call me. I've got at least 3 guys that follow me everywhere I go, and I've gotten to the point where like it doesn't even really bother me. It just kind of makes me. The sadistic part of me smiles. The sadistic part of me smiles because I'm like, it's so funny that they're wasting their life, and then the more compassionate part of me is just sad for anyone who has to be around those people in real life.
I don't think they're that way in real life. Like the guy I'm talking about, at least I hope not, because he's in his mid-50s.
No, I'm not. I'm in my 30s, dude. I've been trolling you.
Oh no. Unless you're from Jersey, I don't think you're the guy.
I'm not that far. I can drive out there. No, yeah. I don't know. YouTube haters to me are they're a very special bunch. Like I enjoy it. I enjoy an aspect of it because it takes a special kind of person to
be a hater.
Yeah, and it takes all kinds to run this world, I mean, it's fun when you have a video of 600 likes and then there's 4 people who dislike it. You got to wonder what happened to those 4 people.
People dislike these videos for whatever reason.
They do this.
I have people.
They don't like your.
They don't like your room. They don't like your mic. They don't like your thing. They just don't like the plugin. They just don't like you. There's so many different. They just don't like the product. It might not have anything to do with you.
Yep.
They could be having a bad day.
Yep.
Yep.
It's fine, but it's the ones that, like, I'm talking about the dislikes that go up before the video is actually even visible.
Oh yeah, those.
You know what I'm talking about? Like, I have haters that literally dislike my video before it's actually viewable, and I'm like, interesting. I'm like, you follow me that closely? Like, really?
Oh,
I don't even follow me that closely. Like, I didn't even know my video was up yet. You know?
I have a guy who goes through my videos, and he will like just find like little pieces and snippets to use them in a later argument online.
Well, see, those people to me are really dangerous in general, just because I have ADD, like clinical severe ADD, and I can't have a regular conversation with somebody that long to be able to do that. Like, I would struggle with proper callbacks from an hour ago. So
I don't have that kind of free time. I'm like, that's like some stalker shit.
Yeah.
Like, get a girlfriend or something, dude. What you doing with your life?
So, with that being said, Bryce, why you hate?
Oh, wow.
Bryce, why you hating?
Oh, man.
Well, I've seen Bryce in Native Instruments forums for probably going on, what, 4 years? Maybe, no, more than that. Yeah, probably about 4 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, see? So what's weird is that, like, if you really look at the internet as a whole, you would say, oh, well, it's such a mass amount of people that, like, you can't, like, take it personal. But the real fact of the matter is what we do is so niche. Like, it's such a small amount of people. You would be surprised that you will hop around from forum to forum, and people don't always use the same names, but you'll see those same people pretty much everywhere. Like,
right.
It's so easy to get to know somebody over the course of 4 years.
Yeah.
Like I've known Upright for God knows how long. Like, you know, I've known him for years.
Mm-hmm.
But I just see him face to face for the first time the other day. So it's like, that's a little bit different, you know?
Or let's even talk when we were doing sound check. This is the first time I've seen Bryce, because I've known Bryce for about 3-4 years. I'm like, Bryce is a black guy? I swore in my head that Bryce was white.
Bryce, you type so white.
No, it's like I don't know what
a lot of people
do, but like if I when I talk to somebody, like if I talk to them on the phone or I type them in the chat and I don't see a picture of them, I kind of get like a visual image in my head.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but the visual image in my head of Bryce was a white guy.
I remember the first time I met St. Joe in person. I was ready to run. The dude is huge.
Is he a big guy? See, and I assumed St. Joe was probably like maybe 5'8".
He's a big guy. He'll beat you up. And he's very aggressive. Joe, if you're watching, don't hit me. Very violent.
He got those Dwight Howard arms.
He seems very calm, but trust me, he's very violent. But yeah, that's the great thing about the internet is, like, you meet these people and then you develop these relationships over the years, even with the haters. Like, there are certain people that I know online that I've known for years that I can't stand. But in the same way, it's kind of like a love-hate relationship. You're like, okay, well, like, I can't stand this guy, but, you know, I'm cordial with him, and I would consider him an associate because it's like, he knows so much about me. I've talked to him so much, even though he has a completely different opinion on such and such. But you meet these people in person, and you're like, holy crap. It's kind of weird to know a real human.
I remember when I did my first video, like 3 or 4 years ago, and I uploaded it, and I spent like, I don't know, 3 hours of editing time on it and stuff, and I uploaded this, and I was really proud of the video because it came out really good. And the first comment was like 2 minutes later after the upload and was like, gay.
Oh, we've all got. I got a comment on one of my videos the other day said, asking me, like, and dude I would delete the comments. I'm like, this has nothing to do with the video. Like, dude, are you gay? No, but why the hell does that matter? We're talking about a plugin, and you're asking me if I'm gay.
Yeah, I had a comment the other day, which luckily the person who commented deleted his own comment before it was viewable to even me fully. Like, the only way I was able to read it was through my email. Right? So it was interesting because like I get these troll comments and I read them and I'm like, oh, okay, troll comment, cool. And then like depending on how salacious it is, I'll either delete it or I'll just let it be. Like a lot of the times I just don't care. Like I'm just like, oh, you don't like it? Fine. But this guy commented about how annoying my voice was. And the comment was something to the effect of like, why is it? He said, no offense, but, which means, of course, something offensive.
Yeah, very offended.
Why is it that all of these videos are done by guys with like the most annoying voices? And I'm like, well, that's because we're all freaking audio nerds for one. We're all shoved into our studios all the time. This is what we do. Hey, we're not voiceover artists. Like, not many of us are actual voiceover artists, and none of us are paying, unless you're Knox Squared. I'm not paying somebody to do voiceovers. You know what I mean? It's like, like there's a few of us who have radio voices. But I'll tell you straight up, when I was on the radio, I was not there as just a voice personality. Like, I was behind turntables. Like, that's not what this is. This isn't for, top 40 masses. This is for people who want to learn. This is for people who are interested in what we do. This is for, the 1% of my demographic that's a female. You know what I mean? Like, it's for guys, dude. If you're really worried about my voice, you might want to check what you're really into.
Yeah, for sure.
But guys, I think we're drifting off a little bit, and we're almost over 2 hours of streaming here. So I think we should...
and it's what 3 in the morning or something there now.
No, it's almost 1.
Almost 1.
About
10 to 1.
All right. Well, we'll sign off, and everybody, I want you all to have
Hey guys, I want
night.
to tell you guys I like your videos. It's very nice on YouTube, and I am not a hater. I am a liker. I like you, my friend. You are very nice.
We appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
And
notice how he said that to Kev, though, right?
He said it to guys.
I thought he said it just to Kev. I thought he was basically implying that he likes Kev's videos, but he's a hater of all the rest of us.
Yeah, and don't forget to spay and neuter your pets and stay safe.
Yeah. All right, so Flux from fluxwithit.com signing off, and you guys can all sign off as well.
All right. Take it easy.
And remember... Oh, sorry.
You're good. All right. Take it easy from KevWestBeats.com. There will not be a new video tomorrow because everybody asked for it because I'm still setting up this PC. So go ahead, Mike.
Looking forward to that video. Take care, everybody. That's it for me.
I'm out too. Take care, guys, and please don't send me any more messages when new videos coming out. I'm a little busy at the moment, but there will be some new videos in the next 1 or 2 months, I promise.
Awesome.
And remember, next show will be on the 9th of March, so make sure you make an appointment in your calendar.
Oh, that's a special day. That's a special day.
Why is that?
March 9th?
Is there something else besides the show going on?
Well, we're doing another show, but that's a very special day in history, in hip-hop history, and I'll leave that... I'll leave that for the YouTube comments. Because if you don't know, I'm gonna let you I'm gonna let you get harassed about why you don't know that. So.
Well, but the day Biggie died. I had to think about it.
All right, guys. All right. Peace out.
Later.
Peace.
Take care.